There's a stretch of music, roughly from the late 1970s through the 1990s, that doesn't get talked about the way it should. Not the mega hits, the other songs, the ones that were absolutely everywhere for a year and then just vanished. If you were there, you remember them. If you weren't, you'll swear we made them up. These are 12 songs you don't remember, unless you're Gen X. Number 12, Video Killed the Radio Star by the Buggles. Trevor Horn and Jeff Downes wrote Video Killed the Radio Star in 1978, a full 3 years before anyone outside of England had any reason to care who they were. The song was released as a single in September 1979 and went to number 1 in the UK and 15 other countries. In the United States, it peaked at number 40 and quickly disappeared. Almost nobody in America had heard of the Buggles. Then MTV launched. At 12:01 a.m. on August 1st, 1981, the first music video ever broadcast on MTV was Video Killed the Radio Star. The choice was deliberate. The network's executives had gone looking for a song that said something about what MTV was. A channel that promised to change how people experienced music. The Buggles' track, with its theme of technology replacing the old way of doing things, was exactly what they needed. The song had been written with a kind of wistful anxiety. Horn later described the concept as a vision of a future where record companies would have computers in the basement manufacturing artists. The irony of using it to launch a channel that would spend the next decade doing exactly that to the music industry was apparently lost on no one, or at least not dwelled upon. We can't rewind. After the broadcast, record stores in the markets where MTV was available started selling Buggles albums. Radio stations were not playing the song. It was clear that the new channel was moving product, an early sign of how completely MTV would reshape popular music for the next decade. The Buggles never had another American hit. Both Horn and Downes went on to other things, notably joining the progressive rock band Yes for One album in 1980, before Downes departed to help form Asia. Horn became one of the most successful record producers of the 1980s, working with artists including ABC, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and Seal. Video Killed the Radio Star sold 5 million copies worldwide and was certified platinum in the UK and France. In 2024, Billboard named it the greatest song ever written about the music industry. Number 11, Der Kommissar by After the Fire. Falco wrote and recorded Der Kommissar in 1981 in Austria, and it became a massive hit across Europe and in Japan and Australia. In the US and UK, it barely registered. The song was in German. It had a strange, nervy energy, and Falco was not yet known internationally. American radio had no idea what to do with it. After the Fire was an English progressive rock band that had been around since the late 1970s and had pivoted to new wave. In 1982, they recorded an English-language version of Der Kommissar and released it. The arrangement was faithful to the original, but now the lyrics were in English, and suddenly, American radio stations were willing to play it. Don't turn around. After the Fire's version reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1983. It spent 4 months on the chart and was one of the most unusual songs to break through at that moment. A European new wave track with an almost paranoid energy built around a protagonist being shadowed through the city by a figure known only as the Commissar. The song never quite named what the threat was. That ambiguity was part of what made it work. After the Fire never had another American top 40 hit. The band dissolved not long after, but their version of Der Kommissar opened the door for something larger. When Falco himself finally broke through to the American market in 1986, it was partly because listeners had already absorbed one version of his sound without knowing it. The trail Der Kommissar blazed made Rock Me Amadeus possible. Number 10, 99 Luftballons by Nena.
You and I in a little toy shop by a
In 1983, a West German pop band released a 3-minute anti-war song in German that became one of the strangest #1 hits of the decade. Nena's 99 Luftballons was written by guitarist Carlo Kargas after he attended a Rolling Stones concert in West Berlin and watched a cluster of balloons drift east toward the Berlin Wall, wondering what would happen if the military misidentified them as a threat.
99 red balloons floating in the summer.
The song he and keyboardist Uwe Fernkrog Peterson wrote from that image told the story of 99 balloons triggering an escalating military response that ends in war. All in German, all delivered with a catchy new wave pop production that made the subject matter feel even more unsettling. The song topped the charts in West Germany, Austria, and Switzerland in 1983. When it was released internationally in early 1984, it reached number 2 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 in the UK, Australia, and Canada.
99 Decision Street, 99 ministers.
Nena recorded an English-language version, 99 Red Balloons. But that version performed less well than the German original in many markets. An unusual outcome at a time when the American market heavily favored English-language songs. The Cold War context gave the song a charged backdrop. West Berlin was a divided city surrounded by East Germany, and the very idea of balloons drifting across the border into military airspace was not entirely hypothetical.
Knights of the air, ride super high-tech jet fighter.
Listeners in 1983 and 1984 felt that reality in the song, even if they couldn't understand the words. Nena had a few further hits in Germany, but never matched the international impact of 99 Luftballons. The song has remained one of the most recognizable German-language pop records of all time.
And here is a red balloon. I think
Number 9, Pass the Dutchie by Musical Youth. Musical Youth were 5 teenagers from Birmingham, England, the youngest of whom was 11 years old at the time of recording. They formed in 1979, signed to MCA Records in 1982, and released their debut single in October of that year. It went to number 1 in the United Kingdom in its second week on the chart. Pass the Dutchie was adapted from a reggae track called Pass the Coochie by the Mighty Diamonds, a song whose original lyrics referred to marijuana. Musical Youth's version replaced those references with lyrics about food and passing a cooking pot. A Dutchie is a type of Dutch cooking pot common in Caribbean households, and the whole song was reframed as a celebration of sharing and community. The arrangement retained the reggae feel of the original, overlaid with the high, energetic vocals of a group of children who genuinely seemed to be having the time of their lives. The song reached number 1 in the UK in November 1982, where it stayed for 3 weeks. In the United States, it peaked at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1983. It also topped the charts in Australia and several European countries. Musical Youth were not a novelty act. They were skilled performers who had grown up in a household deeply rooted in reggae music. The brothers' father, Frederick Waite Sr., had performed with the Jamaican band Techniques in the 1960s. But the music industry at the time had little infrastructure for a group of underage performers, and the legal and management complications of their situation contributed to a short career. By 1985, the group had effectively dissolved, unable to follow the momentum of their breakthrough year. None of their subsequent singles came close to the success of Pass the Dutchie, Number 8, Rock Me Amadeus by Falco. Early 1986, the #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks was a German-language synth rap track about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, performed by an Austrian musician who went by a single name. Falco, born Johann Hölzel in Vienna in 1957, had been a star in Austria since the early 1980s. Sar, his 1981 breakthrough, had been a European hit and eventually reached American audiences through the After the Fire cover. But Falco himself had never cracked the US market. That changed in 1986 with Rock Me Amadeus, the lead single from his third album, Falco 3. The song was written by Falco and Dutch producers Bolland and Bollen, who had been inspired by Milos Forman's 1984 Oscar-winning film Amadeus. Treated Mozart as a rock star born 2 centuries too early, reckless, extravagant, adored, in debt. Falco had resisted recording the track, reportedly calling it disrespectful to Mozart's legacy. His management persuaded him otherwise. Rock Me Amadeus reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on March 29, 1986, making Falco the first and, to this day, only artist to reach #1 in the United States with a German-language song. It also topped the charts in the UK, Canada, and more than a dozen other countries. The accompanying music video, in which Falco appears alternately in a dinner jacket at an aristocratic party and dressed as Mozart among a group of motorcycle bikers, became a fixture on MTV. Falco died in the Dominican Republic in February 1998 when his car collided with a bus. He was 40 years old. His estate has estimated he sold a combined 40 million singles and 20 million albums worldwide, making him the best-selling Austrian musician of all time. Number 7, Pump Up the Jam by Technotronic. In late 1989, a Belgian producer named Joe Bogert released a single that most people in America assumed had been made in New York or Chicago. The track was called Pump Up the Jam, and it sounded like nothing that had come out of Europe before. Bogert had been working in the Belgian new beat scene, an underground electronic music movement centered in Ghent, and was deliberately trying to bring that sound to an international audience by fusing it with American hip-hop and house music elements. He assembled a group he called Technotronic and enlisted rapper and vocalist Ya Kid K, a Belgian artist of Congolese descent, to handle the vocals. The resulting single had a pulsing, almost mechanical energy, with Ya Kid K's voice riding over it with a commanding directness that was unlike anything on pop radio at the time. There was a complication. For marketing purposes, Bogert presented a fashion model named Feli Kalingi as the group's vocalist in the music video and on the album cover. Feli had no involvement with the recording and did not speak English. When Technotronic toured the United States, Ya Kid K appeared as herself. The deception unraveled, and the album cover was subsequently reprinted with her image instead. Pump Up the Jam reached #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1990, kept from the top spot by Michael Bolton's How Am I Supposed to Live Without You? It hit #1 in Belgium, Finland, Iceland, Portugal, and Spain, and was certified platinum in the United States. Technotronic went on to open for Madonna on her 1990 Blonde Ambition World Tour, a remarkable position for a group that had been entirely unknown outside of Belgium 18 months earlier. Number 6, Groove is in the Heart by D-Light. D-Light were 3 people: Lady Miss Kier from Ohio, DJ Dimitri from Ukraine, and Tawate from Japan. They had met in New York City's club scene in the mid-1980s, formed a group, and spent several years performing in the kinds of downtown Manhattan clubs where house music, funk, and the avant-garde overlapped in unpredictable ways. They called their music not a genre, but a philosophy. Their whole presentation was built around joy, color, and the idea that dancing was a form of communication. Their debut single, Groove is in the Heart, was released in 1990 and was built from an elaborate collage of samples, including a bass line from Herbie Hancock's 1966 recording, Bring Down the Birds, drums from Vernon Birch's 1979 track, Get Up, and contributions from Parliament Funkadelic bassist Bootsy Collins, who played bass and contributed vocals, and rapper Q-Tip of A Tribe Called Quest. Fred Wesley's trombone and Maceo Parker's saxophone were recorded live for the track. The song reached #1 on the US Hot Dance Club Play Chart and #4 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1990. In the UK, it tied for the #1 position with the Steve Miller Band's re-release of The Joker, but a chart rule giving the advantage to the record with the larger week-on-week sales increase handed the top spot to Miller. D-Light's record label contested the ruling, and the resulting controversy led to that chart rule being scrapped entirely. Groove is in the Heart has since been ranked among the greatest dance songs ever recorded by both Rolling Stone and Billboard. The group broke up in 1994. In 2025, Billboard ranked it the second best dance song of all time. Number 5, Informer by Snow. In early 1993, a song called Informer spent 7 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was recorded by a white Canadian reggae artist named Darren O'Brien, who performed under the name Snow. He was 22 years old. He had grown up in a housing project in North Toronto called Allenbury Gardens and had spent time in jail on assault charges while the album was being completed. He learned his distinctive reggae-influenced vocal style from Jamaican friends and neighbors in his neighborhood, absorbing the cadence and rhythm of dancehall so naturally that many listeners assumed he had grown up in Jamaica. Informer was a rapid-fire reggae track delivered in a style so dense with patois and unconventional pronunciation that the lyrics were genuinely difficult to follow for most listeners, a quality that became part of the song's appeal. Many people memorized what they thought were the words, only to find out later they had been singing something entirely different. The central story was autobiographical, referring to Snow's legal troubles and the people he felt had informed against him. Producer MC Shan, a figure in the New York hip-hop scene since the 1980s, helped shape the recording. The single was the longest-running #1 in the United States for any reggae-influenced track up to that point. It reached #2 in the UK and top charts in Canada, Australia, and across Europe. The debut album it came from, 12 Inches of Snow, sold over 8 million copies worldwide. Snow never had another top 10 hit in America. He continued recording through the 1990s and 2000s, including collaborations with Jamaican dancehall artists, but the specific combination of timing, sound, and word of mouth that had made Informer unstoppable in early 1993 did not repeat. The song itself has remained one of the most recognizable one-hit wonders of the decade. Number 4, Whoomp, There It Is by Tag Team.
Tag team back again. Check it to record, let's begin.
Cecil Glenn and Steve Gibson were two Atlanta disc jockeys who recorded Whoomp, There It Is in a single session in 1993, releasing it on their own label for $600. They called themselves Tag Team, and they had made the song to play at the club where Gibson worked.
Say whoop, there it is, hit me.
It was a call and response party record built around a simple, relentless hook, and they pressed a small number of copies to give away at shows. Within weeks, radio stations in Atlanta were playing it. Within months, it had spread nationally. Tag Team signed a distribution deal, the song was pressed in larger quantities, and whoomp, there it is, entered the Billboard Hot 100 in the spring of 1993, where it spent 35 weeks on the chart and peaked at number 2. It was one of the biggest selling singles of the year. The summer of 1993 also produced another song with almost exactly the same structure.
Show you the way. Whoop, there it is. Let me hear you say.
Woot, There It Is by 95 South, which charted at the same time as Whoomp, There It Is, creating one of the more unusual simultaneous chart parallels in pop music history. The two songs are distinct recordings, with different lyrics and production, but they shared a cultural moment so completely that many people spent the following decades unsure which was which. Whoomp, There It Is became a stadium anthem used by sports teams and played at events for years after its initial run. In 1993, it sold over 2 million copies. Tag Team's follow-up recordings never came close to matching its impact, but the song itself remained in regular rotation wherever crowds needed something to chant along with. Number 3, How Bizarre by OMC.
How bizarre! How bizarre!
Polyfuemana grew up in Otara, a working-class suburb of Auckland, New Zealand, in a family deeply rooted in music and Pacific Island culture. He had been performing under the name OMC, Otara Millionaires Club, a tongue-in-cheek nod to the neighborhood's reputation, since the early 1990s. In 1994, he began working with producer Alan Jansen, who had made his name in New Zealand's synth pop scene. The song they wrote together, How Bizarre, was released in New Zealand in December 1995 on the small local label Huh Records. It went to number 1 in New Zealand in early 1996, where it stayed for 3 weeks. It spread to Australia, where it also reached number 1, and then to Canada, Ireland, Austria, and South Africa.
Elephants and acrobats, lion, snakes, monkey.
The music video, shot in Auckland on a budget of $7,000, was aired on American television approximately 15,000 times between 1997 and 1998. How Bizarre was never released as a commercial single in the United States, which under the chart rules in place at the time, made it ineligible to chart on the Billboard Hot 100. Instead, it topped the Billboard Mainstream Top 40 Airplay chart in August 1997, making OMC the first New Zealand artist to reach number 1 on any Billboard chart. The song sold between 3 and 4 million copies worldwide. Polyfuemana died in Auckland in January 2010 at the age of 40 after several years of illness. Following his death, How Bizarre re-entered the New Zealand charts as a new generation of listeners discovered the song. It remains the highest-selling pop single ever recorded in New Zealand.
Every time I look around, it's a mob.
Number 2, Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna
In the autumn of 1997, the number 1 song on the Airplay charts in the United States was made by an anarchist collective from Northern England that had been releasing records since 1982 and was philosophically opposed to much of what the music industry represented. Chumbawamba formed in 1982 in Burnley, Lancashire, and spent more than a decade making music that was openly political. Releases that responded to the miners' strikes, anti-war movements, and various campaigns for labor rights. Their catalog before Tub Thumping included records that were distributed at benefit concerts and picket lines. They were not a group that anyone expected to top the Airplay charts in America. In 1997, they signed to EMI Records, a major label, and released their 8th studio album, Tub Thumper. The lead single was Tub Thumping, an anthemic, almost defiantly simple song built around the repeated declaration that the narrator gets knocked down but always gets back up. It reached number 2 on the UK singles chart, held from the top by Will Smith's Men in Black, and peaked at number 6 on the US Billboard Hot 100. It spent 9 weeks at number 1 on the American Airplay chart. The album sold over 3 million copies in the United States alone. At the 1998 Brit Awards, drummer Danbert Nobakin poured a bucket of water over UK Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott during the live broadcast, in protest of the government's handling of the Liverpool dock workers' strike. Chumbawamba continued recording until 2012, releasing 6 more albums. Tub Thumping remained their only US top 40 hit. Number 1, Steal My Sunshine by Len.
I was lying on the grass of Sunday morning of last.
In the summer of 1999, a Canadian brother and sister duo named Mark and Sharon Costanzo released a song called Steal My Sunshine under the name Len, and it became one of the most inescapable tracks of the year. The song was built around a sample from Andrea True Connection's 1976 disco record, More, 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 layered beneath a loose, rambling narrative delivered in a conversational style that felt less like a performance and more like a recording of 2 people talking in the back of a car on a long drive nowhere in particular. Mark handled the lead vocals. Sharon contributed backing. The whole thing had a worn, sun-bleached quality that fit the summer of 1999 without trying. Steal My Sunshine peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and reached the top 10 in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. In the UK, it reached number 8. The song spent most of the summer on the charts and became a defining soundtrack for a specific kind of late afternoon feeling. The kind that only exists when school is out and nothing important has been decided yet. Len had released an album, You Can't Stop the Bum Rush, in Canada in 1996. But it had attracted little attention outside of a small audience. Steal My Sunshine came from their second album, also called You Can't Stop the Bum Rush, released internationally in 1999. The label pressed it for international distribution after the song started gaining traction on Canadian radio. The album sold well in the wake of the single's success, but no follow-up track came close to matching it. Len have released no new music since the early 2000s. The song appeared in the 2004 film Eurotrip, in the animated series Futurama, and has resurfaced periodically through television placements and streaming playlists ever since. For most people who remember it, though, it exists as a very specific flash of 1999, faint and warm, like a summer that ended before you noticed it was going. 12 songs, and the odds are good that at least half of them just played in your head without you even trying. That's what this era of music does. It hides itself in the background and then surfaces decades later, note perfect. If any of these brought something back, hit the like button and subscribe. There are plenty more where these came from. We'll see you next time.